Welcome to TV Plus Talk. I'm Chuck Joyner, and she is.
I'm Charlotte Henry, and we're back, Chuck. I missed you, man.
I missed you too, Charlotte. It's our respective schedules. We're just busy people, and it seemed like we could not put things together, but we are back on track. And I don't know about you, but I plan to stay that way.
Yeah, we're back. We're back. There's a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to catch up on. So I'm really, really pleased that we're back with TV Plus Talk. Obviously, it goes out on both of our channels. So it's great. I'm excited to be back with you.
Yep, and Apple TV Plus again continues to give us a lot to talk about. So that's why we do this show, and we're glad to have you with us, folks.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start, Charlotte? You want to dig back to?
Well, look. Let's talk about the thing I'm not going to be upset about first, and then we can come back to. We'll have a therapy session afterwards.
Okay.
Really interesting. Apple has been nominated for 2 Peabody Awards, which are pretty serious journalism awards. And yeah, it's been awarded that for 2 different, 2 of its documentaries, which is a pretty big deal. It's been nominated for Bread and Roses and The Last of the Sea Women. The interesting thing about this, Chuck, and we both said it sort of shamefacedly, right, was we read this story and we're like, I don't think I've heard of these shows and I haven't watched them, which is interesting, shameful. What was your take?
We've been the one criticism we've had consistently of Apple TV Plus is that it doesn't. They don't do a great job of promoting things. Both of these documentaries look very interesting, and I didn't know about them. And I haven't seen anything about them until I saw that article from Apple World today. So, that I'm adding them to my list, and I'll get to them eventually, along with about a dozen other things that are on Apple TV Plus that I need to get to. But I just wish there was a way that we could get a little more consistency of notification of some of these things.
Yeah. So just for people who are like us and haven't heard of these shows, Bread and Roses is described as Saramani's documentary follows the experiences of Afghan women since the Taliban took control of Kabul, including an ex-government employee forced to stay indoors, a woman organising resistance via her dentistry practice, and a refugee who flees to Pakistan. And for The Last of the Sea Women, that's described as Director Soo Kim follows a declining community of women in South Korea, most of them now in their 60s or older, who dive to the ocean floor without oxygen tanks to harvest seafood to feed their community. As you said, these both sound kind of fascinating. What I do also think is Apple TV Plus has proven itself since its launch a few years ago to be particularly good at documentaries. Like, that is one of the things it's really strong at, I would say. So, I mean, and hence the award nominations because they're good. But it goes back to your key point, which is if you and I haven't heard of these, there's not that much help of any normal people hearing of them. And the promotion is not good enough.
Well, first of all, I think you just called us not normal, but that's
Chuck,
maybe accurate. Maybe accurate. I don't know.
Come on.
No, Charlotte, I agree. I was particularly intrigued that these two documentaries are focused on women. The first one almost sounds Cloak and Dagger. I'm really anxious to watch that, and the second one just sounds like one of those I don't know, feel good pieces. But
Yeah,
again,
I suspect it looks beautiful.
oh yeah. So but I agree with you. They have this great reputation for documentaries, and it just seems like it doesn't get the kind of publicity that I don't expect it to get like Avengers level publicity. That's not realistic. But there's so much good stuff on Apple TV, and if you don't listen to us, you may be missing out on some of it. And so that's another good reason to listen to us. But it's not
100%. I was just going to say, yeah.
Yeah, but it's also another good reason to go and explore Apple TV Plus and see what all is there, because there is a lot.
Yeah, just to give you a kind of idea of the caliber of things that get into the Peabody Awards. In one of the categories, we've got things like Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, We've got the Truth versus Alex Jones. Both of those are from HBO Max. We're talking about serious stuff that Apple is competing with. I'll go through the list more, but my point is, it's a very prestigious thing for Apple to have been, or products on Apple, I should say, to have been nominated for. And so I'm surprised we didn't hear a bit more about it from Apple. Maybe we missed it. And I'm surprised that I'm just surprised we haven't heard more about these shows. I think there's one on here that there is one documentary on here that I've seen that's competing against Apple, which is called Hollywood Gate, which is again about Afghanistan and the return to Taliban control in Afghanistan, which is a fascinating documentary if you get to see a chance to see that. There's all sorts of, very serious bits of work on there. So it's an amazing achievement by Apple. But again, what is going on that these shows kind of get lost? I think, having discussed this for as much time as you and I have, Chuck, I have to ask you the question, is the fact that we're not hearing about this stuff showing that Apple doesn't really care that much about TV Plus? I know that's a controversial way to return to this show, and I'm sorry, but at a certain point we have to ask these questions.
Look, I know that TV Plus is not a big revenue generator at this point. It is a revenue generator, but it's not one of the major ones. The second thing is, and I want to try to be fair here, that not everything can rise to the top. And there have been so many other things that have been Apple-oriented in the headlines. And of course, the entire news cycle right now has been upended in so many different ways. Yeah, right. Yeah, you've really been under the table writing the new book.
Well, quite common. No, I'm not going to start.
But sometimes I feel like maybe we just don't follow the right channels. But I do feel like that the tech press doesn't do the best job of picking up on some of this, and I almost want to.
Why we started TV Plus Talk, right?
Yeah, well, and I almost want to plead to them. Okay, guys, I know that you're looking for content. And so pay a little more attention to some of this, because this is Apple news, and you should be covering it. I applaud Dennis Sellers at Apple World Today for unearthing this, because I don't think I saw it anywhere else. So if he hadn't brought it to our attention, we wouldn't have known.
Well, it's the kind of thing that I've tried to follow and maintain. But you're right; it does go underreported, and that's not great. But you also have to put a little bit of the responsibility of that onto the Apple PR operation, surely.
If they are failing to release, is that right? If they're failing to release press releases, yes, I agree.
Yeah, but it goes beyond that as well. Like, anyone can stick a press release onto an email or on a website. You've got to have an ongoing conversation with the right people and get the word out there and be communicating in the right way.
Correct. And we also know that there's no guarantee that just because Apple sends a press release that somebody's going to pick it up and put it out on their site. So I don't know what the answer is.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it needs you to go above and beyond that. And the fact that Apple often doesn't do that makes me wonder, do we care more about Apple TV Plus than they do?
No, I still think Apple's playing the long game with TV Plus. I think that
it's been nearly 6 years now.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I mean, for them to get to where they are with all the awards, you're more the awards person than I am, but they've really spent a lot of time and a lot of money, and you don't just buy those awards. I mean, they have to create great content, because they're up against a lot of other people with a whole lot of money creating great content. And so they're right in the ring swinging with them. It's just that, I mean, maybe I almost say maybe if it were branded differently, if it were a completely different service, it might get more attention.
I don't know about that. So look, I'm just browsing through the Apple TV Plus press releases. There was, not surprisingly, a big press release at the 27th of March for its 13 BAFTA nominations, which is obviously a very significant achievement. there's nothing regarding the Peabody Award that I can see. So that's, again, seems a bit surprising to me. Anyway, it's not really, we're not here to particularly critique the Apple PR operation. I just throw it out there as a sort of indication of where Apple TV Plus ranks in the kind of hierarchy of things Tim Cook down care about. I have no doubt that the people who work on TV Plus really, really care about it, and that's why there's good stuff on there. But I think the fact that since we started the show, we've had to have this conversation repeatedly does say something to me, I think.
Well, I think one of the other things I want to talk about a little later did not get much publicity. I did see a little, but I want to be fair about this. I'm not. Does anybody publicize documentaries?
Well, it's a great point. And, documentaries aren't as sexy as something like a BAFTA drama or a blockbuster movie. You're totally right about that. You're like, that's 100% true. But it just seems a shame that, when you're up for a prestigious award against the likes of the New York Times, New Yorker, Audible's in there, PBS, all of these people who are in various categories for a Peabody Award, seems a shame to not make a bit more of a fuss about it.
Yeah, listen, I agree. I mean, I would think that, and maybe they will. I don't remember from the article. I don't have it uploaded right now as to when the Peabody Awards are awarded. I seem to be having
I don't know the day, but we'll keep an eye on it because, of course, we'll let you know about it on TV Plus Talk if Apple comes away with the awards. And I don't want to detract as well from the achievement of Apple of commissioning this work, because that's really important to tell these stories. And I think part of my frustration is these stories, as you said, they sound fascinating, right? I'm sure they're beautifully shot and edited, these documentaries. Like you, I'm going to try and settle down to watch them at some point. And so it seems a shame if they're getting lost either in the app, within media coverage and so on. Because I really commend Apple for the fact that it has consistently put out really, really high caliber documentaries. Did you ever watch the one, Chuck, when TV Plus first came out, that looked at, I've forgotten the name, but it looked at various kind of extraordinary homes that people had built and lived in? Did you ever get to see that? I loved that.
I did. Yeah, it was great. And so, that, I don't know if that's the kind of thing that people just, if you're a documentary person, you're going to automatically go and check the documentaries section.
Yeah.
And I get it. There are no stars in documentaries, so you don't have those those personality appeals that happen. So, and maybe I'm making excuses. I don't know. I feel like there are so many things on Apple TV Plus that don't get the kind of attention that they should. Now, to do a little bit of a transition here, Severance is the second season has wrapped. And the Apple PR team did an amazing job of,
yes, I saw this,
doing different things, having Tim Cook become a member of the company and have him enter the world of Severance, and all these crazy little promotions that were just fun. I know that I have sort of an up and down relationship with Severance. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I can't say that, oh my God, I was just hanging on every episode. But I've absolutely enjoyed it. My friends, though, that are Severance obsessed, just delighted in all these little Easter egg kind of things that they were putting out.
Yeah, I mean, it shows you that when Apple wants to do it, it really can. Obviously, Severance has been a huge, huge hit. Are we at Ted Lasso levels yet? What do you think? Are we there?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
I think it's close.
I think you're kind of right. Which is kind of amazing given how long the time was between the first season and the second season. They've already announced the third season, so that's great. We're going to get to continue to play in this world.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's not a comedy. I'm not sure what it is, but it's definitely not a comedy.
But it's not funny.
Um,
From well, you're talking about a show that's been renewed for another season. I'm going to talk about a show that is going after a season. Well, it's going after its current season. Mythic Quest. You actually were the one that broke this news to me. Mythic Quest is going at the end of season 4. I'm currently watching season 4. I think it's the best show on TV Plus. I've said that time and time again. I really stand by it. It is brilliant. I've really enjoyed season 4. Just at the point I thought I was going to fall out of love with the show. They do little things that keep me loving it. It's so clever. So I'm a huge, huge fan. Have you been watching season 4?
Not yet. Not yet. It's
Okay, it's
one of
really
the,
good. You'll enjoy it when you get there.
yeah. I was delighted that we finally got there and we got season 4. And then when I got this news, it's like, oh, okay, that's disappointing. I'm still going to watch it, obviously.
Oh, yeah. And you were telling me, Chuck, that they're going to reshoot season 4 so that it has a proper ending.
Well, the last episode, and I think this is brilliant, by the way, because too many shows out there, they just get canceled. They end on a cliffhanger, and then, frankly, I'm hesitant to recommend those shows to anyone because that there's going to be this unsatisfying ending. So they're going to re-edit and reshoot the last episode to put an ending to the story. Now that doesn't come out now for at least a month or two. That last one, right now you can still watch the full regular season. Just keep in mind that you're going to want to watch that reshot episode to sort of wrap up the.
I might wait. I might not watch the one that's there and watch the reshot one. I probably have to watch both.
Yeah, I mean, I'm anxious to see what the difference is and how they do something that, because I don't know the Mythic Quest was ever one of the cliffhanger series, but there was always a sense of, okay, we want to see what happens next. And
you've got to end it properly, right?
Well, to my way of thinking, it's a great investment because eventually this will get syndicated. And it's going to be something that, okay, maybe even if it gets syndicated with only the wrap-up last episode, it's going to wrap up the series and you're going to get that satisfaction of saying, okay, I'm going to move on to something else because they're going to live happily ever after.
Yeah, and even if it doesn't get syndicated, you still want to be able to say to people, just like you would, you made such a good point. You don't want to recommend stuff that has a random ending. You want people to say, yeah, go and watch Mythic Quest, 4 seasons. It's really great. Just watch it all. Which, of course, again, to Apple and TV Plus's advantage. So, yeah, I entirely agree with you. There's a statement from the 3 executive producers, Megan Gantz, David Hornsby and Rob McElhenney, who said, endings are hard, but after 4 incredible seasons, Mythic Quest is coming to a close. We are so proud of the show and the world we got to build, and deeply grateful to every cast and crew member who poured their heart into it. To all our fans, thank you for playing with us. To our partners at Apple, thank you for believing in the vision from the very beginning. Because endings are hard, with Apple's blessing, we made one final update to our last episode so we could say goodbye instead of just game over. Which I think is rather lovely.
I agree. And again, to their point, I applaud Apple for doing this, for allowing them to do it, and for them taking the time and effort to do it, knowing that the show is over. That this is something that I wish every single, it would be a real challenge for some series, but I wish every single production house out there would at least keep this in the playbook and do it, because I can think of 3 or 4, right now I can think of 2 things that were not on Apple TV Plus, they were somewhere else, but that ended, and it's just like, but there's more. What happens next? And it left too many unanswered questions.
Oh, I finished watching the L Word Generation Q. Spoiler alert, it ends with a car crash. You don't know what happens after that. I mean, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
So well done. I agree with your praise of Apple. I think I'm sad this show has ended because I love it. And they had renewed it for a 5th season. As I understand it, a 5th season was originally commissioned. The only good thing about cancelling it is I hate it when shows that I love go on too long and you fall out of love with them. And I'm glad that, I've got a few episodes to go, but I'm glad that probably won't happen with this, because that's always a shame when that happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Apple has actually been good at cancelling shows generally before that happens. They're pretty brutal with their cancellations, actually. And so that they are good at that. And so I think, I'm pleased that that's happened.
You bring up an interesting point that some shows, no matter how much of a favorite, can go on too long. And there's only so much more you can do with them. And so that's a really interesting point. And I guess every show is a little bit different as to how far you can take that. But back in the network days, I can think of a number that they did go on too long. And they just kept trying to patch the tires.
You don't want that to happen with a show you love.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just don't.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
I wanted to put in a pitch.
Go ahead. Put in a pitch, and I've got a question for you.
All right. I want to put in a pitch, though, for something that came out earlier this year, and it's The Gorge on Apple TV Plus.
Okay,
it's a movie. And I'm not going to do any spoilers, but what I'm going to tell you is that the trailer, need to go and see the trailer, because the trailer is very intriguing. It's what got me in. And once I got into it, it had two elements of the story that absolutely normally would turn me off, and I'd have stopped it. And it is so well done, in my opinion, that I carried through and loved the whole movie. So give it a try. It may not be for you, but just watch the trailer. And if that kind of thing appeals to you, I think the same thing will happen to you, that no matter what the elements that might not appeal to you, you will thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy it.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. Give me a quick précis of what it's about. No spoilers, but just a little.
I can't, because the trailer leads you to believe that you're going in one direction, and about a quarter of the way in, you go a completely different direction. And that's why if I give you anything, I'm going to spoil something. And so.
Okay, so that's The Gorge.
Yes, The Gorge.
Okay. The question I wanted to ask you is, where do you think, and this is a big question, but it feels appropriate, as a sort of comeback episode discussion, where do you think TV Plus is, kind of 5.5 years into its existence, quarter of the way through 2025 already? Where do you think we are with the service? Let's take it as a given there's now a substantive back catalogue. I think the discussion about doing originals only has gone. Apple has proved you can do that there is a meaningful enough back catalogue there. It's got a bit of sport in it now. But beyond that, where do you think we are, Chuck?
It's an interesting question, because there's so many ways to look at it. It's not been a huge commercial success because the subscriber numbers are not there.
That we know of.
Well, yeah, that's true. But based on what has been revealed. That said, though, I feel like it's one of the strongest ones, because I feel like that there's always they keep releasing stuff, and they keep releasing good stuff that keeps me want to stay subscribed. As opposed to saying, I'm going to stay subscribed to service X because they have this franchise or that franchise on there. And,
you can say Paramount Plus and Star Trek. It's okay.
Now, well, I wasn't even thinking, honestly, of Paramount Plus. But I was thinking of Hulu and Amazon and some of the others. Yeah. That, they're still rolling out some good programs. But it doesn't feel like, and I think they're rolling out more, but I feel like Apple TV Plus is a little more selective about what they bring out. I know that you'll be terrified at this, but I haven't gotten to the current season of Shrinking. That's next on my list. But
I've watched that, really enjoyable.
Okay, so there you go. So there's always something new coming that keeps me there, as opposed to saying, I don't see anything new here, so I'll go back and watch an old favorite. And there's nothing wrong with old favorites, but, I'd rather watch something new.
Yeah, agree with you. Just on Shrinking, I said it was enjoyable. Some of it was enjoyable. Some of it's quite disturbing in this season, and I'd warn people of that. There's one element of it that annoyed me, and when you've watched it, I want to discuss it with you. If you picked up on the same thing that I did.
Okay.
There is, to your point, a lot of new stuff coming. If you look again at the set of releases, just in the course of April, Apple have announced a Guy Ritchie film called Fountain of Youth, season 3 of Jane. I have to say that's not a show I've heard of, but I think it's a kids show. It's got a second install. There's an animated trilogy called Wandler, and that's got the second bit coming out. There's going to be a new Long Way Home with Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman, and there's been a trailer. This was in March, in a few days ago, and it's coming out in May for something called Murderbot. So, like, there's a lot happening on TV Plus still.
And Murderbot looks very intriguing, I think, from what I've read about it.
It's another one based on a book.
Yeah, so that's it. I feel like it's strong. I think Apple's experimenting with the sports aspect of it that we've talked about in the past. Mm-hmm. So I still feel like it's almost a laboratory, that they've figured out some things they can take out of the laboratory and make products, and others they're still trying to figure out what to do with it. And I don't see that as a bad thing, as long as they're giving me value for the money. And when I look at what some of the other services are charging, and I guess your comment about back catalog is a great one, because there is now a decent back catalog in TV
I think
Plus.
That debate's gone.
Agreed. So now, if I look at the value I'm getting for what I'm paying for Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, Apple TV Plus, I feel like the ratio is pretty darn good for Apple TV Plus in conjunction with the others. Even if the others are releasing 50 new shows, if only one or two of them appeal to me, I don't care about the others.
I mean, and you have made this point kind of consistently from the start, to be fair. You've been fairly consistent in having that opinion, which is fair enough.
Yeah, it's the way I kind of look at everything right now, especially the way the economy is going here in the States, where I want to get the best value for the money. And what am I paying on a per hour basis? Am I paying $4 an hour, $5 an hour, or am I paying 50 cents an hour? Figure it out.
Yeah.
What's best for you?
It's a completely fair point. It's a totally fair point, and I think it's a really, really valid one. And yeah, I do agree with you quite a lot that regarding the quality on Apple TV Plus. I mean, that's obviously why you and I love talking about it and keep talking about it, because there is genuinely good stuff to talk about on there, and that's really, that is exciting, and that's why we're going to stay here and keep chatting. So
definitely. Yeah. Before we wrap, I did want to ask you one question, because we've had a bit of a layoff. What was your reaction to the next season of Ted Lasso, the announcement?
So, first of all, I'm furious.
Oh.
Because I was told in an interview by Bill Lawrence, in an on-the-record interview for a story I did, that it was a 3-season arc, and that was it. So now they've gone against that word, and they've done 4 seasons, and it's gone against the interview I did all those years ago, and I'm furious, Chuck.
Other than that, Charlotte.
Other than that, I think Apple is not stupid, and Apple knows that its biggest show and its biggest moneymaker on TV Plus is Ted Lasso. And I think they know exactly where their bread is buttered, and they were not going to give that up if they didn't have to. Season 4, I don't know if you read this, track, is meant to be based around Ted now coaching a women's team. I can feel the cringe already. I'm really sorry. I am a huge supporter of women's football. I write about it consistently. I'm a huge fan of women's football. I can, given what we've seen already in Ted Lasso, I can only imagine how this is going to go. Sorry if that makes me evil and cynical. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's a wonderful advertisement for the women's game, which is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. But I think I can feel the ick already, and I'm sorry. I want it to be a good representation of women's football, not a cringy one.
Okay, so let me ask, pardon me, let me ask you this then. Did you feel that the representation of men's football in Ted Lasso was a cringy representation?
No, I think it did a pretty good job, generally. I think it was fine. I'm sure it was it was a bit Hollywoodized and a bit romanticized, but it was, pretty good. There were some pretty relatable characters. Some of the characters were based on real people, so.
And of course I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because I'm not a big football for the US folk soccer.
We'll work on that. We'll work on that.
So yeah, well, I know you've been working on that, Charlotte. You've gotten me to watch some stuff, but I don't pay attention to the personalities and all.
You've got the World Cup coming up in your country. We'll get you involved by then. You've got a year.
I don't have enough to do, and she's going to make me do something else.
You're welcome, my friend. You're welcome.
Charlotte, it's great to see you. I'm so sorry it's taken this long to get back together, but
likewise.
We will do better now.
We will do better. I have a book that I'm finishing and writing. That's coming out in October. So if you're interested in this stuff, I hope you'll be interested in the book because it's all about streaming. It's called Streaming Wars. It's out in October. So I hope you'll be interested in that. It does talk quite a bit about TV Plus. So yeah, I hope people who watch the show will be interested in that. What else are you up to, Chuck? Causing trouble?
Well, yeah, there is that. I'm back from NAB, the NAB show, last week, and just starting to release some of the interviews that were shot there. It's always fascinating to go and dig deep into the whole world of media production and everything associated with it. So we had some really great interviews with a number of different people. My approach is always, I tend to stay away from the big people, the Adobes or the Avids, because they get so much coverage anyway. I want to go to the back of the hall and talk to the people in the smaller booths that are doing some really cool stuff. So that's what you can expect on Mac Voices.
1 year, you'll take me, right?
1 year, absolutely. Anytime you want to come over. You would have no trouble getting credentials, so sure, come on.
I look forward to it. Well, we promise we'll be back on a regular basis now. So, Chuck, I'm so excited to see you for that, and we'll see you all soon.
Definitely. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon.